The courtroom did not breathe. Not when she leaned forward. Not when she jabbed a finger at Judge Judy and said, with a smirk sharp enough to slice the silence, "You're a fake judge." A ripple of shock passed through the gallery. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate, unsure if they were witnessing arrogance or self-destruction. Judge Judy didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't even shift in her chair. Instead, she lowered her glasses, that tiny surgical motion she uses right before delivering a verbal autopsy, and gave a reply so precise, so cleanly devastating, that the woman's smirk collapsed before her brain could catch up. The courtroom erupted. But the twist? The woman wasn't shocked because of what Judge Judy said. She was shocked because Judge Judy exposed something she thought no one knew, something that explained exactly why she called her a fake judge in the first place. And that's when everything flipped. The smirk hadn't faded. If anything, it grew sharper as the echo of her insult lingered above the courtroom like smoke. And Judge Judy, still unmoving, let the silence carry the weight of what the woman had just done. The gallery shifted uneasily, the kind of collective movement that happens when people realize they might be watching the beginning of a disaster. Karen leaned back in her chair with a confidence that did not match the tension she had created. She crossed her arms slowly, theatrically, almost daring the room to react. Her eyes flicked toward the cameras, the way people do when they forget this is a courtroom, not a stage. The plaintiff, a soft-spoken woman named Mia, sat 3 seats away, fingers pressed tightly together. She did not look angry. She looked tired. The type of tired that comes from months of hoping someone will finally take your pain seriously. Judge Judy lowered her glasses just a fraction. Not a full descent, not yet. Just enough for the room to understand the balance had shifted. The overhead lights reflected faintly in the lenses, giving her eyes an almost surgical clarity, the kind that cuts without the need for volume. "Are we finished performing?" she asked, voice steady as polished stone. Karen laughed once, a short, brittle sound meant to mask nerves. "I'm just saying what everyone thinks," she replied, gesturing loosely at the gallery, as if expecting applause. No one moved, not a smile, not even a breath of agreement. Judge Judy tilted her head, watching Karen the way a physician watches someone who insists nothing is wrong while actively bleeding. "You think everyone in this room agrees with you?" she asked calmly. Karen shrugged, but the motion lacked the swagger she had entered with. "Well, someone has to say it." Mia finally spoke, her voice quiet but clear. "You did not say it because you believe it," she whispered. "You said it because you were scared of her." Karen twisted toward her. The smirk flickered. Scared? Of a TV judge? The courtroom's energy shifted, subtly but unmistakably. Fear had entered the conversation, and it did not belong to Mia. Judge Judy tapped a single finger on the bench, a sound that echoed louder than it should have. "I think," she said softly, "the person you are scared of is not me." Karen blinked, thrown by the precision of the line. Judy didn't elaborate. She let the silence stretch long enough for Karen's heartbeat to fill it. Then Judy raised the first document, a loan agreement, holding it at the corner, the way she holds things she intends to dissect. "Let us begin," she said, "and this time let us try telling the truth." Karen's smirk wavered again, almost imperceptibly, but the room saw it. And Judy did too, because just as Judy opened the file, she found something, a detail so small Karen thought no one would ever notice. But Judy noticed, and the temperature of the room dropped a full degree when her eyes narrowed at it. The paper trembled just slightly in Karen's hands. Not enough for her to notice, but enough for Judge Judy to. And the moment Judy lifted her gaze, the room sensed she was already unraveling something Karen desperately wanted to keep hidden. Judy set the altered document down with deliberate care, as though placing a fragile truth between them. The gallery leaned forward instinctively. Karen straightened her back and pushed her chin up, trying to restore the armor she had worn so confidently minutes earlier. Mia kept her eyes fixed on her lap. She looked like someone who had spent too long apologizing for things she never caused. Even the way she held her purse, close, protective, said more than any testimony she could give. "Miss Karen," Judge Judy began, voice calm and unhurried, "you submitted a loan agreement with quite a few creative revisions. Why?" Karen let out a breathy laugh, one coated in forced charm. "It is just formatting. I made it cleaner. Easier to read." Judy lifted the paper again and held it toward the lights. "Cleaner and easier to read," she repeated, her tone flattening into clinical neutrality. "Then why does the date appear to be adjusted with two different ink strokes?" Karen froze for half a heartbeat, the kind of stillness that happens when the body knows it has been caught before the mind does. She leaned forward, voice higher now. "Maybe the pen ran out. People change pens." "People do," Judy agreed, "but most do not change pens in the middle of a single number." A soft murmur fluttered through the audience. Karen's smile tightened. She tried to deflect, gesturing toward Mia with a dismissive hand. "Look, she is exaggerating this whole thing. We had an agreement. She helped me out, I helped her out. That is how friends work." Mia looked up then, not with anger, but with a kind of quiet ache. "You did not help me," she said softly. "You told me I was heartless if I did not give you the money." Karen rolled her eyes. "It was a joke. People joke. She takes everything so seriously." Judy's expression sharpened. "Is that what this is to you? A joke?" Her tone wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. It cut with precision. Karen shrank slightly, shoulders curling inward before she forced them back up. "I just mean she is dramatic. That is all." "And you are not?" Judy asked bluntly. A few people in the gallery stifled reactions. Karen exhaled hard, as though the room had betrayed her. Her confidence flickered again, revealing something smaller beneath it. Not anger, not arrogance, but fear. Judy leaned back, observing. "You rewrite documents, you rewrite conversations, you rewrite intentions. I am curious what else you rewrite, Miss Karen." Karen stiffened. "Are you calling me a liar?" "I am calling you inconsistent," Judy replied, "and inconsistency often points toward something else." Then she reached into the file and pulled out a second page, one Karen had submitted earlier without realizing how closely it would be inspected. The corners of Karen's eyes twitched. Because this page wasn't just revised, it was rewritten entirely. And Judy's thumb rested on a line that should not have been there at all. A line that made Karen's entire posture break, just for a second. Judge Judy held the revised page between two fingers, as if the truth might drip off it. Karen's breath hitched, barely, but enough. And suddenly the document was no longer paper. It was evidence, and it was talking louder than she ever intended. The fluorescent lights hummed above, casting a cold sheen across the page as Judy angled it toward herself. The courtroom grew still, like everyone sensed they were seconds away from seeing something Karen did not want seen. "This," Judy said, tapping a line near the bottom, "is not what you submitted in your original filing." Karen blinked quickly, the way people do when trying to erase a mistake with their eyelids. "That is the version I meant to send." Her words were airy, too quick, too polished. I corrected a typo. Judy raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. A corrected typo generally does not result in an entirely different repayment clause. The gallery murmured softly. Mia looked up, her expression small and uncertain. Like she had been bracing for this moment but still hoped it would never come. Karen's voice wobbled just enough to betray her. Maybe I printed the wrong version? People mix things up all the time. People do, Judy agreed, tone calm as a measured heartbeat. But people do not typically replace terms that determine hundreds of dollars with optimism. The air tightened. Karen swallowed. Mia shifted, finally drawing a breath. She told me the loan was interest-free, Mia said quietly. She said she could not afford any extra fees. Karen snapped toward her. Because I could not. You knew that. Do not pretend you did not. Judy's eyes sharpened. Then why does this version say she owes you interest? Karen froze. Her jaw worked, but no words came out. The silence pressed in on her like a weight. Pushing her deeper into the chair she had strutted into minutes earlier. The courtroom lights buzzed louder, or perhaps it only felt that way because Karen's composure was fading. Her fingers clenched around the edge of the table, knuckles whitening. Judy tilted her head. You changed the document to make yourself look victimized. That is what this appears to be. She paused, letting the point land. Patterns like this do not start with money. Karen opened her mouth, but Judy held up a hand, a quiet, authoritative gesture that stopped her cold. Before you speak, Judy said softly, I want you to understand something. Paper does not lie. People do. Karen's breath stuttered, and for the first time, her eyes darted, not toward the cameras, not toward the gallery, but toward the exit. A subtle, involuntary glance. Mia watched her, her expression shifting from sadness to recognition. This is what you do, Mia whispered. You change the story when the truth makes you uncomfortable. Karen shot her a glare meant to intimidate, but it collapsed halfway through, leaving only panic beneath. Judy flipped the page over slowly, methodically, like turning the final card in a deck that had been stacked all along. Because on the back was a notation Karen never meant anyone to see. A single handwritten line that connected today's lie to something older. And when Judy read it, the room felt like it stopped breathing again. Judge Judy stared at the handwritten notation as though it were a confession disguised as ink. Karen's shoulders lifted, then fell, a micro-collapse. And for the first time since she walked in, she looked like someone who realized the past had finally caught up. Judy turned the page sideways, letting the lights sweep across the faint handwriting. The courtroom leaned in as one unit, the way crowds do when they sense a truth forming, but cannot yet see its shape. Karen's nails dug into her palms beneath the table, leaving crescents of rising panic. This, Judy said calmly, is interesting. Karen's lips parted. It is nothing. Just a reminder to myself. Her voice was thin now, stretched tight across fear. Judy did not respond. Instead, she read the line under her breath, then set the page down with almost reverent slowness. A reminder, she repeated, to avoid judicial interference. That is an unusual phrase for a casual loan between friends. The gallery murmured like wind rustling through tension. Karen laughed, too loud, too sudden, too brittle to belong to confidence. It is just, I do not like legal stuff. Judges, courts, it stresses me out. Mia looked at her with a kind of exhausted recognition. It does not stress you out, she said quietly. You fixate on it, on them. Karen turned, eyes flashing. Because they... She cut herself short, biting the second half of her sentence like it tasted bitter. Judy caught it. She always caught it. "Because they what?" Judy asked, voice steady, almost soft. "Finish your thought." Karen swallowed. "Nothing. Forget it." Judy leaned back in her chair, studying her the way a surgeon studies an X-ray that tells a different story than the patient. "Ms. Karen," she said, "fear of the legal system does not make someone falsify a document." Karen stiffened. "I did not falsify anything." "You did," Judy said simply. "And it was not the first time." The air fractured. Even the cameras seemed to slow their hum. Karen blinked fast. What does that mean?" Judy pulled a second folder from beneath the bench. A thin, older-looking file with worn edges and a faded label. Karen's face drained of color. Every muscle in her body seemed to lock, like she had turned to stone one heartbeat too early. "This," Judy said, placing the folder down where Karen could see it, "is your prior small claims case from 3 years ago." Mia gasped. Karen did not move. "You filed a complaint claiming a judge was biased against you," Judy continued, flipping the file open. "You accused them of destroying your life. Those were your exact words." Karen's jaw trembled. That case was different." "It was not different at all," Judy said. "You altered documents then, too." The gallery erupted into whispers before the bailiff called for order. Karen's breath came in short bursts. She pressed a hand to her forehead as though trying to block out the memory. That judge, they hated me." "No," Judy said quietly, firmly. "They did not hate you. They just did not let you rewrite the truth." Karen's eyes glistened, not with tears, but with the panic of someone watching old lies resurrect themselves. Then Judy leaned forward, voice razor-sharp in its gentleness. "You called me a fake judge today," she said, "because real judges remind you of the one thing you cannot outrun." Karen stiffened. "Your own history." And as Judy slid the old file toward her, Karen's mask cracked clean down the middle. Because there, in the margin of a years-old complaint, was a note written in her own handwriting. A note that explained exactly why she had walked into this courtroom ready to attack. Karen stared at the old complaint, as if it were a ghost she thought she'd buried deep enough never to see again. Her fingers hovered above the file, trembling, then retreating. And in that small, frightened motion, the courtroom finally saw the real woman beneath the smirk. Judge Judy did not rush her. She simply let the silence settle, heavy and honest, giving Karen's fear enough space to reveal itself. The gallery watched with a strange mixture of curiosity and empathy. Whatever arrogance Karen entered with was gone now, replaced by something rawer and far more human. "Miss Karen," Judy said gently, "you filed this complaint claiming a judge ruined your life. Why?" Karen's eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape that did not exist. I do not remember everything from that case," she said, her voice cracking at the edges. "It was a stressful time." Judy did not blink. Stress does not explain falsified documents. Karen closed her eyes. For a moment, she looked less like an antagonist and more like someone who had spent years pretending the world was against her because the alternative, that she was against herself, was too painful to face. Mia's voice broke the silence. "Karen, why did you never tell me about this?" Her tone wasn't sharp. It was wounded. Karen turned toward her, tears threatening but not falling. "Because you would have judged me too," she whispered. Mia shook her head. "I would have helped you. But instead you lied to me about everything, even the loan, even why you needed it." Karen swallowed, throat tight. "I needed it because Because... She trailed off, breath shaking. Judy leaned forward slightly. Because what? Karen's shoulders collapsed inward. Because I was scared, she said in a small voice. I thought if people knew I lost that case, if they knew I'd been accused of lying, they would think I was a failure, that I deserved it. Mia's eyes softened, but her pain remained. But you let me believe you were the victim. I did not mean to, Karen snapped, then immediately softened. I mean, I did, but I was trying to protect myself. Judy tapped the old file once. Protect yourself by hurting others. That is the pattern. Karen inhaled sharply, as though the words struck deeper than she expected. Her hands gripped the edge of the desk, knuckles pale. I just wanted someone to take my side for once, she whispered. And so you rewrote the story, Judy said, but stories written out of fear always have cracks. The room felt smaller now, like the walls were listening. Even the cameras seemed quieter, lenses fixed on the unraveling of a years-long defense mechanism. Karen tried to speak again, but the words tangled together, collapsing into a soft, frustrated sob. She wiped her eyes roughly, as if refusing to let the vulnerability stay long enough to be witnessed. Look at me, Judy said. Karen did. Running from the truth is exhausting, isn't it? Karen nodded once, a tiny, reluctant admission. Mia watched her, torn between sadness and the faintest glimmer of compassion. And then, just as Karen seemed to settle into silence, something inside her snapped back to life, pride, fear, or the last flicker of the persona she carried in with her. She straightened suddenly, pointing at the file. But that judge was biased. They had it out for me. Judy didn't move, didn't twitch. She simply blinked once, slow, deliberate, because the next words out of her mouth were not loud, but they were precise enough to slice through the last of Karen's defenses. Then why, Judy asked softly, did you lie to them too? Karen froze, mid-breath, as if the question pinned her to the chair. For a moment she did not blink, did not move. And the courtroom felt the exact second performance gave way to something far more fragile. Judge Judy's words settled into the room like dust. Quiet, undeniable, impossible to escape. Karen stared at her, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. The practiced confidence she walked in with dissolving grain by grain. She looked like someone trying desperately to rewind time to 5 minutes ago, when she still believed she had control. But Judy wasn't finished. You lied to that judge, she repeated, voice gentler than before, which somehow made it hit harder. And your complaint blamed them for exposing it. Karen's breath trembled. She tucked her hair behind one ear, the movement shaky. I did not lie. Not exactly. I was overwhelmed, okay? I had a lot going on. Mia looked at her with a quiet sorrow that seemed to pull the air from the room. You had a lot going on, she echoed softly. But you made it my problem. Karen's head snapped toward her. I did not make it your problem. I asked for help. You demanded, Mia corrected gently. And when I hesitated, you cried. You guilted me. Then you promised you would pay me back in 2 weeks. She swallowed, eyes glistening. That was 10 months ago. Karen shook her head rapidly, as though motion alone could erase the truth settling around her. You do not understand. If you knew what I was dealing with, then tell me, Mia said. Not accusing, not angry, just tired. Tell Judge Judy. Tell all of us. The silence that followed was thick enough to touch. Karen's lips trembled. Her hands shook, fingers tightening around the table edge until her knuckles whitened. Her voice, when it finally came, was barely a whisper. Because if I said it out loud, it meant it was real. Judy watched her, expression unreadable, but eyes softened with something close to human recognition. "Running from reality does not make it go away," she said. Karen nodded. Tears gathering but not falling. She looked suddenly small, a child caught lying, terrified of the consequences, but even more terrified of the truth itself. "You do not know what it feels like," Karen whispered. "To think everyone is judging you all the time. To feel exposed." Mia's voice cracked. "I was your friend, the only one who did not judge you, and you lied to me anyway." Karen blinked rapidly, tears finally slipping free. "I did not want you to think I was a failure." Judy leaned forward a single inch, small but powerful. People do not become failures because they lose cases. They become failures when they refuse to learn from them. Karen inhaled sharply, the words hitting harder than any shouted accusation. Her shoulders deflated. And then, the moment the room sensed she might finally break, the moment vulnerability almost won, Karen's pride surged to the surface. She wiped her tears harshly, straightened her spine, lifted her chin. "Fine," she snapped. "I lied. But Mia owes me too, and I have proof." Judy's eyes narrowed, the first flicker of irritation breaking through her calm. "Proof?" she repeated. Karen reached for her bag with shaking hands, and when she pulled out the folded paper, Mia's face drained of color. "If you were sitting in that courtroom, would you speak up for the truth, or stay silent and let the evidence speak for you?" Karen unfolded the paper with trembling fingers, but her eyes betrayed her. She was terrified of what she was about to use as ammunition. Judge Judy watched her like someone watching a match being struck in a dry forest. "And Mia?" Mia simply whispered, "Please don't," as if she already knew what was coming. Karen slapped the paper onto the table with more force than confidence. The sound echoed sharply, slicing the tension already thick in the room. She straightened, drawing breath through clenched teeth, as if inflating her collapsing sense of control. "This," she announced, voice wobbling beneath a layer of faux certainty, "proves Mia owes me money." Mia closed her eyes, shoulders tightening. "Karen, we talked about that. You told me you would never use that against me." Judy leaned forward. "Against her?" She said it with curiosity, not judgment, which somehow felt more dangerous. Karen darted a glare toward Mia. "I just meant, she borrowed money from me months before the loan I took from her. She said she'd pay me back, and she never did." "So technically," Judy interjected, "you are accusing her of the same thing she brought you here for." Karen froze, mid-sentence. Judy held out her hand. "Let me see the paper." Karen hesitated a beat too long, but she surrendered it. Judy examined the document under the lights. The gallery leaned in again, the third collective lean of the day, each one deeper than the last. "This is a handwritten note," Judy said. "No date, no terms, no signature from the plaintiff." Karen swallowed. "Because it was between friends. She said she'd pay me back when she could." Mia opened her eyes, voice trembling. "Karen, that was when my father was sick. You offered to help. You insisted I take the money." Karen's jaw clenched. "I was trying to be a good friend back then." "And did you ever ask her to pay you back?" Judy asked calmly. Karen blinked, once, twice. "Not exactly." Judy set the paper down. "Meaning?" Karen fidgeted. She said she appreciated it, and I said she didn't have to rush. I didn't want to seem pushy." Mia spoke softly. "You said it was a gift." Karen's head whipped toward her. "I never said gift. You wrote it in the text message." Mia's voice cracked. "Do you want me to show it?" Karen's face paled. The courtroom rustled with an uneasy murmur. Even the cameras seemed to sharpen focus, sensing the shift, that the paper wasn't proof of Mia owing money. It was proof of something else entirely. A pattern. A cycle. Karen giving with strings she claimed were invisible, until she needed them to suffocate someone. Judy tapped the paper. "Miss Karen, this isn't evidence she owes you money. This is evidence you are rewriting your past generosity into leverage now that you are cornered." Karen's breath hitched. Her pride scrambled for footing. I wasn't trying to use it against her. I wanted people to know I wasn't the only one who makes mistakes. Mia's eyes softened, but the hurt deepened. "I wasn't trying to hurt you, but you keep turning everything into a weapon." The room fell still. Karen's defenses flickered, an internal battle playing out across her face. For a split second, honesty surfaced. "I just didn't want to feel small," she whispered. "Not again." Judy nodded slowly, as if she'd been waiting for that sliver of truth. "Then you should stop shrinking other people to make yourself feel bigger." Karen exhaled, shaking, something in her finally giving way. Then Judy's gaze drifted toward Karen's bag, where another folded item peeked from the pocket. "Miss Karen," she said quietly, "what else did you bring with you today?" Karen's eyes widened, because she hadn't meant for anyone to see that second item. Not ever. And the moment Judy pointed to it, Karen's hand moved to protect it like it was a secret she feared would end her. Karen's hand flew to her bag so fast the gallery gasped. Not out of aggression, out of fear. The kind of fear that meant whatever was inside that bag wasn't just personal. It was dangerous to her story. Judge Judy didn't raise her voice. She didn't shift her posture. She simply extended a hand, calm, patient, inevitable. "Bring it to me," she said. Karen's throat bobbed. "It's nothing," she whispered. "It's private. Nothing isn't protected like treasure," Judy replied. Karen flinched as if struck. Slowly, painfully, she withdrew the item, a small, overstuffed folder, edges curled from overhandling. Mia covered her mouth, recognizing it instantly, not the contents but the weight of it. Someone only grips something that tightly when it holds the version of themselves they don't want the world to meet. Karen placed the folder on the bench with reluctant fingers, as if it might burn her to let go. Judy opened it. The first page alone made her eyebrows rise, not in shock but in understanding, and that made the room tense even more. Inside were notes, pages and pages, not financial records, not legal documents, but rehearsals, literal rehearsals. Bullet points of arguments, lines written like dialogue. Phrases circled 3 times, like chants preparing for battle, and in the middle, underlined, the words, "Call her a fake judge if needed." The gallery exploded in whispers before the bailiff called for silence. Karen's breath collapsed into a brittle, shaking exhale. "It wasn't supposed to. I wasn't—" She stumbled over her words like they were debris from her collapsing defense. Mia stared at her, devastation flooding her features. "You planned it?" she whispered. "You planned to humiliate her?" Karen's tears spilled, messy and uncontrolled. I thought if I came in strong, if I made her look wrong, I could protect myself. I didn't know what else to do." Judy held up the page gently. "You did not come here seeking justice," she said, voice clear as glass. "You came here to create a spectacle." Karen shook her head violently. No, I came to defend myself." "This isn't defense," Judy said, tapping the circled insult. "This is strategy, a smear tactic you prepared days before ever stepping into this courtroom." Karen covered her mouth with both hands, shoulders trembling. Her carefully constructed persona, the confidence, the bravado, the smirk, shattered into dust. "What were you protecting yourself from?" Judy asked softly. "What terrified you so much that you rehearsed an attack instead of preparing your truth?" Karen's sob cracked the air. "I thought if I acted strong, you wouldn't see how weak I really am," she whispered. The sentence fell like a confession, years overdue. Mia's eyes filled, with heartbreak, with recognition, with a grief she didn't know she still carried for the friend she thought she had. Judy didn't move. She didn't moralize. She simply let Karen sit in the silence she had created. Then she lifted one final sheet, the last page in the folder. Karen's face drained of color. Because on that page was something far worse than the rehearsed insults. A timeline. A detailed written plan of how she intended to discredit the court to avoid responsibility. Karen hadn't panicked and thrown out a reckless insult. She had rehearsed it, scripted it, designed it as a shield. This wasn't impulsive defiance. This was premeditated manipulation. The room held its breath as Judy lowered the paper. "Ms. Karen," she said quietly, "do you understand what this means for the rest of today?" Karen, trembling, whispered, "Please, please don't read the last page." The moment Karen whispered, "Please don't read the last page," the energy in the courtroom changed. It wasn't anger anymore. It was the collective realization that whatever she was hiding was worse than anything already revealed. Judge Judy didn't touch the final page. Not yet. She simply rested her fingertips on it, the gesture delicate but heavy with unspoken authority. "Miss Karen," she murmured, "the truth does not become kinder by staying hidden." Karen shook her head violently, tears streaming now, no longer wiped away with pride. Her voice cracked like thin glass. "You don't understand. That page, it was just me venting. It wasn't supposed to be real." Mia's expression softened in a way that made the pain sharper, not gentler. "Karen, what did you do?" Karen pressed both hands against her forehead, as though holding something inside that was threatening to burst. "I wasn't trying to hurt anyone, I swear. I just panicked." Judy leaned forward. "Then let the room understand your panic." Karen's shoulders trembled. She stared at the tabletop, unable to lift her gaze. "If you read it, everyone will think I'm a monster." Judy answered quietly. "No. They will think you're human. Humans make mistakes. Monsters refuse to face them." The gallery went silent, not judgmental, not hostile, but expectant. The kind of silence that waits for truth rather than punishment. Karen inhaled shakily, and finally raised her eyes. And what came out of her mouth next was not anger, not defense, not even denial, but a whisper that drained the color from the room. "I wrote a plan to make Mia look like she was lying." Mia recoiled, as if struck. Karen looked at her with desperate, collapsing regret. "I wasn't going to go through with it, I swear. I felt trapped, and she kept asking when I'd pay her back, and I kept running out of excuses, and every time I tried to fix things, I made them worse." Her voice cracked again. "I didn't know how to stop." Judy lifted the last page, but didn't read it aloud. She simply looked at it, reading silently, the understanding in her eyes deepening by the second. She set it down gently. "This," she said softly, "is not the page of a monster. This is the page of someone drowning." Karen let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding, a sound between a sob and a gasp. "But," Judy continued, her tone sharpening, "you chose to pull Mia underwater with you, and that is why we are here." Karen covered her face, shoulders shaking. The gallery remained still. No whispers, no judgment. Just the weight of everything she had tried to outrun finally settling on her. Mia leaned forward slightly, voice trembling. "Karen, why didn't you just tell me you were overwhelmed?" Karen looked at her through wet, blurred eyes. "Because the last time I told the truth, a judge told me I was responsible for my own mess, and I couldn't handle hearing that again." Judy studied her in silence, not cold, not emotional, just profoundly present. And then she asked the question that froze the room. "Is that why you rehearsed calling me a fake judge?" Karen's breath stopped. The room waited. Karen opened her mouth, but the truth that escaped wasn't the one she planned to say. "Do you think remorse can undo deliberate harm? Or should accountability stand even when someone finally breaks?" Karen's answer came out in a shuddering whisper. "I rehearsed it because I thought if I struck first, you couldn't hurt me." And the moment those words left her mouth, the courtroom exhaled. Not in relief, but in revelation. Judge Judy didn't speak immediately. She simply let the confession settle, the way dust settles after something breaks. Karen's chin quivered. She didn't bother wiping her tears this time. They fell freely, tracing lines down the same face that walked in smirking and unshakable. The transformation was stark, arrogance giving way to the raw, unprotected truth beneath. "I wasn't angry at you," Karen said quietly, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. "I was terrified." Mia swallowed hard, voice barely steady. "Terrified of what?" Karen stared at the desk, twisting her fingers together so tightly the knuckles blanched. "Of being told again that it was my fault. Of hearing," her breath stuttered, "that I did this to myself." Something flickered across Judy's face. Not sympathy. She never offered it cheaply. But understanding. Understanding has weight. And she let Karen feel it. "Fear," Judy said softly, "is not an excuse for mistreating others, but it is a reason worth examining." Karen nodded, small and trembling. I know that now. But when Mia asked for her money back, I felt the same panic I felt 3 years ago, like I was going to be exposed all over again." Mia's voice cracked. "So instead of telling me the truth, you turned me into the enemy." Karen's face crumpled. "Because I didn't know how to ask for more time without looking like a screw-up." "You don't ask for more time by rewriting documents," Judy said. Her tone had steel in it again, carefully placed, not cruel. "You don't ask for more time by planning to smear someone. You don't ask for more time by rehearsing an attack designed to humiliate me on national television." Karen let out a broken sob. I know. I ruined everything." The gallery watched with a strange, sober stillness. This was no longer spectacle. It was unraveling. Judy glanced at the folder again, at the lines Karen had written in desperation, self-defense masquerading as strategy. "You weren't trying to win," Judy said after a long moment. "You were trying to survive." Karen nodded fiercely. "Yes, exactly. I thought if I acted strong, no one would see how scared I am all the time." "And did it work?" Judy asked. Karen shook her head, defeated. "No, it made everything worse." Judy leaned forward, folding her hands. Her voice lowered to a tone she used rarely, reserved for the moments when the truth wasn't just legal, but human. "Do you understand now," she asked, "that the thing you fear most is not judgment, but honesty?" Karen blinked at her, stunned, as if she'd never considered that possibility. Mia watched her with tears in her eyes. "Karen, I would have helped you. All you had to do was tell me the truth." Karen opened her mouth to answer, to apologize, to confess, to collapse entirely. But before she could, Judy lifted a hand. There is one more thing, Judy said. Karen froze. The room stiffened with her. Judy reached for the remaining pages in the folder, pages she hadn't touched yet. These, she said, sliding them forward, tell a very different story than the one you just gave. Karen's blood ran cold, because she knew exactly what those pages contained. Karen stared at the untouched stack of papers as if they were explosives wired to her pulse. Her breathing grew shallow, frantic, the panic rising faster than she could swallow it. Because she knew those pages weren't evidence of lies. They were evidence of her. Judge Judy lifted the top page and glanced at it only briefly before setting it down again. Not to dismiss it, but to give Karen the chance to speak before the papers did. "Ms. Karen," she said quietly, "what am I about to read?" Karen's entire face buckled, not from anger, not from defensiveness, from recognition. Recognition of a truth she'd spent years constructing her life around avoiding. I don't know how to explain it," she whispered. "Try," Judy said. Karen gripped the sides of the table. The veneer of performance had been stripped away. What remained was someone who looked like she'd spent half her life running from shadows she didn't know how to name. Mia leaned forward, voice trembling. "Karen, is it something about the loan, or about the case before?" Karen shook her head wildly. "No, it's worse." The room held its breath. Judge Judy didn't blink. "Then tell us." Karen closed her eyes. A long, unsteady exhale escaped her. A surrender, not a collapse. "It's not the judges," she finally said. Her voice broke on the word judges. "It's me." Judy's hands folded calmly. "Go on." Karen opened her eyes, tears clinging to the lashes. "The reason I hate judges, the reason I attacked you, the reason I lie and panic and rewrite everything," she swallowed hard, "is because I cannot handle being the one who's wrong." The gallery rippled. Mia's hand lifted to her mouth, a painful understanding dawning. Karen's voice cracked again, sharper this time. "When I lost that case 3 years ago, the judge told me something I never forgot. Something I tried to bury." Judy's eyes narrowed slightly. "What did they tell you?" Karen stared at the desk, trembling. "That my biggest problem wasn't money, or the dispute, or the mistake I made?" Her exhale shuddered. "They told me my biggest problem was that I refused to take responsibility for anything, that I would rather burn every relationship in my life than admit I'm flawed." Silence. Heavy. Complete. Karen looked up at Judy, eyes red, face wet. "And the worst part? They were right." Mia let out a quiet sob. Not from anger, from the grief of hearing a truth she had hoped Karen would realize years ago. Karen continued, voice soft, shaking. "So when Mia asked for the money back, it felt like that old judge was speaking again, that I was failing again, and I panicked. I lied. I rewrote everything, and then I thought if I attacked you first I wouldn't have to feel the same shame." Her face collapsed into her hands. "I've spent my whole life trying to avoid the version of myself I became in that courtroom, and all I've done is prove them right." Judge Judy stared at her, not with triumph, not with scorn, but with a heavy, almost sorrowful clarity. "Miss Karen," she said softly, "the judge you're talking about, the one you resented, the one you claimed ruined your life?" Karen nodded, shaking. Judy leaned forward. "They didn't ruin your life." A pause. "You did, by refusing to face the person they saw." Karen's breath hitched. Judy slid one page toward her, a psychological evaluation from her previous case. Written in it were the words Karen had tried to escape for years. Shows chronic pattern of deflecting blame, emotionally triggered by perceived authority. The truth wasn't that Karen feared judges. She feared herself. Karen lifted her eyes, broken and bare. Is there any way to fix this? She whispered. And Judy, for the first time all day, let silence answer her. Karen sat in the silence she had created, breathing like someone learning how to inhale for the first time. The storm had passed, but storms don't leave quietly. They leave debris, and the courtroom was full of it. Judge Judy waited, hands folded, gaze steady. Not harsh, not indulgent, just present. Karen wiped her face with trembling fingers, streaking her makeup across her cheeks. The bravado, the rehearsed persona, the sharpened smirk, all of it was gone. In its place was the bare, unvarnished truth of someone who had run out of places to hide. Mia watched her with a complicated expression. Grief braided with compassion, frustration held together by old fondness. They had once been close, not in the way of lifelong bonds, but in the way of two lonely people who recognized each other's fractures. That kind of closeness makes betrayal hurt deeper. "Ms. Karen," Judy said finally, "look at me." Karen lifted her eyes, red and swollen. "You cannot change the past," Judy said. "You cannot undo the lie or the document you falsified or the plan you wrote to discredit Mia. But you can understand it, and understanding is the first step toward choosing differently." Karen nodded quickly, too quickly, as though nodding might rewrite what had already been written. But Judy wasn't finished. "You asked me if there was a way to fix this. Fixing is not the same as erasing. Fixing requires acknowledgement, ownership, responsibility." Karen's throat tightened. "I know," she whispered. I know it now." Mia spoke softly. "Then why did it take all of this for you to say it?" Karen looked at her, really looked, and the pain in Mia's eyes hit harder than any ruling ever could. "Because every time I get close to admitting I'm wrong," Karen said, voice trembling, "I feel like I'm 10 years old again. Being told I'm a disappointment, I feel worthless." Mia's expression softened, but she did not reach out. Boundaries built from betrayal hold their own gravity. "You're not worthless," Mia said gently, "but you keep acting like you are." Karen sobbed, small and helpless. Judy let the moment breathe before she spoke again. "Responsibility is not punishment," she said. "It is liberation. If you had told Mia the truth from the beginning, she would have helped you. But you pushed her away because the truth felt heavier than the lie." Karen nodded, tears dripping onto the wood grain of the defendant's table. "I hurt her, and I hurt myself." "Yes," Judy said, "and now comes the part where you accept the consequences, not as a sentence, but as a step toward becoming someone better." Karen steadied herself, inhaling shakily. "I'm ready," she whispered. "Whatever happens, I'm ready." The gallery remained silent, not hostile, not gleeful. Just witnessing. Judy glanced down at the files one last time. Then she closed them gently, a symbolic closing of the chapter Karen had spent years running from. "There is something you need to hear," Judy said. Karen's breaths slowed. Mia leaned forward ever so slightly. The room drew in tighter. Because Judy wasn't reaching for the ruling yet. She was reaching for the truth Karen had avoided her entire life. And she was about to say it out loud. Judge Judy folded her hands atop the closed file, the gesture crisp and final. Karen straightened unconsciously, as if her body knew something irreversible was coming. And for the first time since the case began, the courtroom braced, not for conflict, but for consequence. Judy's voice, when she began, was low and deliberate, not condemning, not harsh, just unavoidable. "Mr. Karen," she said, "you have spent years telling yourself the world mistreats you. that judges target you, that friends betray you, that the truth is something to dodge rather than face. She paused. But today, the pattern has been laid bare. By your documents, by your actions, and most importantly, by your own words. Karen's shoulders tightened. Her lips trembled with the instinct to argue, then softened, as if she remembered where that instinct had gotten her. Judy continued. The weight you feel right now isn't punishment, it's clarity. Mia let out a small, shaky breath. Her eyes never left Karen, not with anger, not with pity, but with a quiet hurt that carried its own gravity. Karen wiped a tear from her jaw. I know I messed everything up. You didn't mess up, Judy corrected gently. You made a series of intentional choices rooted in fear, choices with real consequences, choices that hurt someone who trusted you. Karen nodded, weakly but sincerely. Judy picked up the original loan document, the unaltered one, then set the falsified version beside it with surgical precision. These two papers, she said, tell the story better than either of you could. The moment you felt cornered, you rewrote reality to protect yourself. A murmur of recognition rippled through the gallery, an oxygen shift of understanding. Karen stared at the contrasting documents as though they were mirrors reflecting two versions of her, the one she presented and the one she feared was true. I didn't want to be the bad guy, she whispered. No one does, Judy said. But refusing to be the villain is not the same as choosing to be honest. The words hung heavy, weighted with a kind of truth that doesn't echo. It sinks. Mia wiped at her eyes. All I wanted was for you to take responsibility, not even for the money, for how you treated me. Karen turned to her, expression crumpling. I know, and I'm sorry, I'm deeply sorry. The sincerity was real, fragile, unsteady, imperfect, but real. Judy nodded once, accepting the moment but not letting it replace accountability. Apology acknowledged, she said, but apologies do not erase consequence, they accompany it. Karen inhaled, shaky and bracing. What happens now? Judy's expression softened just a fraction. Now, we separate emotion from fact. She adjusted her glasses, shifting fully into judicial clarity. In terms of the financial dispute, the loan from Mia to you was valid, overdue, and intentionally obscured. The handwritten note you brought today does not constitute a debt from Mia to you. Therefore, Karen flinched, but listened. You are responsible for repayment of the loan in full. Karen nodded, barely audible. I understand. But that, Judy added, is the simple part. Karen tensed again. Mia glanced anxiously between them. Judy leaned forward just slightly, enough for the bench lights to sharpen over her eyes. The harder part, she said softly, is accepting the truth about who you've been and who you still have the chance to become. Karen's breath caught, because Judy's gaze had shifted, not to the documents, not to Mia, but directly into Karen's unraveling facade. And the next thing she was about to say wasn't legal. It was personal, and it would change the room's temperature all over again. Judge Judy's gaze didn't strike like lightning this time. It landed softly, the quiet weight of truth, not the sharpness of judgment. And somehow, that gentleness shook Karen far more than anything that came before. Miss Karen, Judy began, voice steadier than the air itself, I want you to hear this without flinching. Karen braced, but did not look away. Her eyes, swollen and raw, held the fragile courage of someone inches from collapse, but still standing. You are not beyond repair, Judy said. A hush rippled through the room. Surprise, disbelief, something like hope trying to surface. But, Judy continued, repair requires honesty, integrity, and a willingness to stop rewriting life into versions that feel easier. Karen's throat bobbed as she swallowed. I'm trying. I know, Judy replied, but trying is not the same as changing. Change begins with accountability, true accountability, not the kind that appears only when you are cornered. Karen lowered her gaze, shame radiating off her like heat. I've been running from myself for so long. Judy nodded once. And the echo of running becomes louder the longer you avoid turning around. Mia listened, shoulders trembling as she held back tears. The emotional exhaustion of the last year, the late-night texts, the excuses, the distance, the guilt, all of it lived behind her eyes. Mia, Judy said, shifting her attention with deliberate care. You have shown remarkable patience. But you are not responsible for carrying Ms. Karen's self-avoidance. That weight belongs to her. Mia nodded gently. I know. I wish she'd trusted me. Karen turned toward her, voice breaking. I didn't trust myself, that's the truth. I thought if you saw all my flaws, you'd walk away. Mia wiped a tear. And by hiding them, you pushed me further away than the truth ever could. Karen sobbed quietly, face crumpling. The devastation was real. Not performative, not manipulative, but the inevitable result of a heart finally facing its own cracks. Judy let the emotion breathe before speaking again. Karen, accountability isn't cruelty, she said softly. It's a mirror. It forces you to see not who you pretend to be, but who you are, and who you can become. Karen nodded, tears dripping rhythmically onto the table. I understand now. I do. Good, Judy said, leaning back, because understanding opens the door. But consequences walk you through it. Karen straightened slightly, bracing herself. Judy lifted the original loan document. The financial judgment is clear, but the emotional judgment, the part you've avoided for years, is this. You cannot keep blaming the world for the wounds you refuse to tend. Karen's breath shuddered. Mia looked down, absorbing every word. And until you stop rewriting your life, Judy said, gentle but unwavering, you will stay trapped in the same chapter, hurting yourself and everyone who tries to love you. Karen closed her eyes, letting the truth land. For once, she didn't fight it. Judy reached for her gavel, slowly, purposefully. The room tensed, because the next sound would mark the end of lies, the end of running, the end of the storm. But before justice fell, Judy had one final truth to deliver, a truth that would echo long after the verdict. Before the gavel comes down, ask yourself, can someone truly change once they face their truth, or do they simply learn how to hide their flaws better? The gavel hovered mid-air, catching the courtroom lights in a white, silent glint. Everyone held their breath. Mia, the gallery, even Karen, who looked as if the slightest sound might shatter her. And then Judge Judy spoke, not with volume, but with finality. Ms. Karen, she said, lowering the gavel without striking it, this moment is not about punishment. It is about truth. Karen blinked, tears suspended on her lashes. Her breathing slowed, trembling, as if the words themselves were steadying her. Judy continued, tone soft but unyielding. You have spent years building barricades made of excuses, walls made of half-truths, shields made of anger, all because you believed the truth would destroy you. Karen swallowed hard. But today, Judy said, you faced the truth, maybe for the first time. It did not destroy you. It stripped away what needed to fall. Mia's eyes glimmered, the tightness in her shoulders finally easing. Judy shifted her attention to her. Mia, You showed patience most people don't possess, but now your part is done. Justice sees you, and justice stands with you." Mia nodded, tears rolling down silently. Judy turned back to Karen. "In the matter of the loan," she said, "judgment is in favor of the plaintiff. The amount owed shall be repaid in full." Karen nodded slowly, accepting, not with defeat, but with a quiet, reluctant dignity. "And in the matter of your behavior," she paused, letting the weight settle. "That judgment is not mine to enforce. It is yours." Karen frowned softly through tears. "Mine?" Judy leaned forward, her voice lowering to something warmer, not gentle but true. "You must decide who you want to be after today. Not for me, not for Mia, for yourself." Karen's breath hitched. She looked down at her shaking hands, as if seeing them for the first time. Not the hands of someone in battle, but the hands of someone who finally stopped fighting. "You cannot change what you've done," Judy said, "but you can change what you do next. And that choice, that responsibility, belongs entirely to you." Karen wiped her face with trembling fingers. She wasn't hiding anymore. She wasn't performing. Her voice, when it came, was small, but present. I understand," she whispered. "Thank you. For not giving up on me." Judy nodded once, not indulgently, not as comfort, but as acknowledgement. Then she straightened, lifted the gavel. The courtroom leaned in. "With all matters considered," she said, "this court finds that accountability, not anger, brings resolution." The gavel fell. A single sharp crack, clean, final, stunning in its simplicity. Karen closed her eyes, not in dread, but in something closer to release. Mia exhaled, the tension leaving her body in a slow, quiet wave. And the gallery, for once, didn't erupt. They just watched, witnessing an ending that felt less like punishment and more like truth settling into its rightful place.